found Maggie's phone in the woods 3 days after they found her body. It was still recording. When I pressed play, I heard Alex's voice, but the timestamp said it was recording after he called 911. That's when I knew everything he told the police that night was a lie. Hello, my name is Connor Walsh. I'm from Hampton County, South Carolina, and for 8 years I worked as a groundskeeper at Moselle, the Murdaugh family hunting estate. It's a sprawling property, 1,700 acres of pines and swampland, the kind of place where old Southern money goes to hide from the world. I wasn't just an employee. The Murdaughs trusted me. I knew which gates stayed locked, which trails Maggie liked to walk, where Paul kept his guns. I saw things most people never did. Private things. Family things. I never thought I'd be the one to connect the dots. But when you spend that much time in someone's world, you start to see the cracks. And in the Murdaugh family, those cracks ran deeper than anyone could imagine. Tea started in the spring of 2021. March, I think. Maybe early April. I remember because the azaleas were blooming near the main house, and Maggie had asked me to trim them back. She was particular about her gardens. Always had been. But that day, when I showed up, she seemed distracted. Distant. "Connor," she said, standing on the back porch with her arms crossed. "Has anyone been coming onto the property at night?" I told her no. The gates were always locked after dark. Security cameras covered the main entrances. She nodded slowly, but I could see she didn't believe me. Or maybe she just didn't want to. "I keep hearing things," she said. "Out by the dog kennels. Footsteps. Voices." I told her it was probably just animals. Deer, maybe coyotes. The estate was full of them. But she shook her head. "No, Connor. This is different. It sounds like someone arguing." I didn't know what to say to that. Maggie wasn't the type to imagine things. She was practical, grounded. If she said she heard something, she heard something. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing things too. Small things. The side gate near the kennels would be open in the mornings, even though I'd locked it the night before. Tire tracks in the mud that didn't match any of the family's vehicles. Once, I found a cigarette but near the pond. Nobody in the Murdaugh family smoked. I mentioned it to Alex one afternoon when he was down at the estate. He was standing near his truck, phone pressed to his ear, arguing with someone. When he saw me, he ended the call abruptly. "What is it, Connor?" he asked, irritated. I told him about the gate, the tracks, the cigarette. He barely looked at me. Probably some kids from town messing around. Don't worry about it. But I was worried, because Maggie kept mentioning the noises. And Paul had started acting strange too. Paul Murdaugh was 22 years old that summer. He was cocky, reckless, the kind of kid who thought his last name made him untouchable. And for a long time it did. But by June, something had changed in him. He'd been charged in a boating accident that killed a girl named Mallory Beach. The trial was coming up, and the pressure was getting to him. I'd see him down at the kennels late at night, pacing, talking to himself. Sometimes he'd just sit there in the dark, staring at nothing. One night in early June, I was locking up the equipment shed when I heard him shouting. I walked toward the kennels and found him standing in the middle of the dog pens, phone in hand, screaming at someone on the other end. I don't care what Dad says. I'm not taking the fall for this. I froze. I shouldn't have been listening, but I couldn't move. There was a long pause. Then Paul's voice dropped to a whisper. "You think I don't know? You think I'm stupid? He's lying to all of us." He hung up and stood there for a moment, breathing hard. That's when he saw me. "How long have you been standing there?" he asked, his voice cold. "I just got here," I lied. He stared at me for a long time, then walked past without another word. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Maggie called me. "Connor, can you come to the house? I need to talk to you." When I arrived, she was in the kitchen making coffee. Her hands were shaking. "I need you to be honest with me," she said. "Has Alex been coming to the estate without telling me?" I didn't know how to answer that. Alex owned the property. He came and went as he pleased. "Why do you ask?" I said carefully. She set down her mug and looked at me with red, swollen eyes. Because I think he's hiding something, and I think it has to do with Paul. She paused, then added in a whisper, I think someone wants to hurt us. I tried to reassure her. I told her it was just stress, that everything would be fine once the trial was over. But I didn't believe it, and neither did she. By mid-June, the atmosphere at Moselle had become suffocating. Alex was barely around. When he did show up, he and Maggie would fight. I could hear them from the kennels, their voices echoing across the property. Paul had stopped talking to anyone. He'd hole up in the guest house for days, only coming out to feed the dogs. And then there were the calls. I started noticing Alex's truck parked in strange places on the property. Once, I found it hidden behind the old tobacco barn, far from the main house. The engine was still warm. I told myself it was none of my business, but curiosity got the better of me. One afternoon, I followed a trail from the barn into the woods. It led to a clearing I'd never noticed before, about half a mile from the kennels. There were fresh tire tracks in the dirt, and something else, a burn pile, recent. I kicked at the ashes and found scraps of fabric, half-melted plastic, and underneath it all, a phone. Destroyed but still recognizable. I should have left it there, should have walked away, but I picked it up, slipped it into my pocket, and that decision changed everything. June 7th, 2021. That was the night it happened. I wasn't supposed to be at the estate that evening. It was my day off, but Maggie had texted me around 8 p.m. asking if I could check on one of the dogs. She said it had been acting sick. I drove over around 8:30. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the property. When I got to the kennels, I saw Maggie's SUV parked near the feed house. The door was open. Music was playing softly from inside. Maggie. I called out. No answer. I walked toward the kennels, and that's when I heard it. Voices. Raised. Angry. I couldn't make out the words, but I recognized the tones. Maggie. Paul. And someone else. Alex. I moved closer, staying in the shadows. I knew I shouldn't be eavesdropping, but something in my gut told me to stay hidden. You can't keep doing this. Maggie was shouting. You're going to destroy this family. I'm trying to save this family. Alex shot back. By lying? By stealing? You think I don't know about the money? There was a long, terrible silence. Then Paul's voice, quiet and cold. He's been stealing from his own clients, Mom. Millions of dollars. Shut up, Paul, Alex hissed. No, Paul said. I'm done protecting you. I heard movement. Footsteps. Then Maggie's voice shaking. Where are you going? To make a call, Paul said. Someone needs to know the truth. I heard Alex say something I couldn't make out. Then a door slammed. I waited in the dark, my heart pounding. I should have left. Should have driven away and never come back. But I stayed. At 9:07 p.m., I heard the first shot. It was distant, muffled by the trees, but unmistakable. Then another, and another. I ran toward the kennels, my legs moving before my brain could catch up. When I got there, the scene was chaos. Paul was lying face down near the feed room door, blood pooling beneath him. His phone was a few feet away, screen shattered. Maggie was slumped against the side of one of the dog pens, her eyes open, staring at nothing. And Alex was standing in the middle of it all, a shotgun in his hands, his face blank. He looked at me. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he dropped the gun and fell to his knees. Connor, he said, his voice breaking. Oh God, Connor. Someone killed them. Someone came onto my property and killed my family. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911, his hands shaking. Please, he sobbed into the phone. Send someone. My wife and son, they've been shot. I stood there, frozen, as he gave the operator the address, as he begged them to hurry. And the whole time, all I could think was, he's lying. The police arrived within minutes. Hampton County Sheriff's Department, then state investigators, then the coroner. Alex played his part perfectly. The devastated husband and father, too shocked to make sense of what happened. He told them he'd been visiting his mother in Alameda, that he'd returned to find Maggie and Paul dead. The timeline didn't add up, but nobody questioned him. Not at first. They told me to go home, give a statement later. I left Moselle that night and didn't go back for 3 days. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. The way Alex had looked at me, the phone I'd found in the burn pile. On June 10th, I went back to the clearing in the woods. The burn pile was gone. Someone had spread the ashes, covered the area with fresh dirt. But they'd missed something. Partially buried in the mud, I found another phone. Maggie's. The screen was cracked, but it still turned on. And when it did, it was still recording. I don't know why. Maybe she'd started recording during the argument and forgot to stop it. Maybe she knew something was going to happen. I pressed play. The audio was garbled, distant. But I could hear voices. Alex, you're going to ruin everything. Maggie, I don't care anymore. I can't keep living like this. Paul, just tell the truth, Dad. Then silence. Footsteps. Rustling. And then Alex's voice, clear as day. I'm sorry. I don't have a choice. 2 shots. Screaming. More shots. Silence. Then, faintly, Alex's voice again. It's done. The recording continued for another hour. I could hear Alex moving around, making calls, rehearsing what he'd say to the police. And then, at 10:47 p.m., the sound of my own voice. Maggie? I turned off the phone and sat in the dirt, shaking. I had proof. Undeniable proof that Alex Murdaugh had murdered his wife and son. But who would believe me? The Murdaughs had owned Hampton County for 100 years. Alex's father and grandfather had been prosecutors. They had judges, sheriffs, lawyers in their pockets. If I came forward, I'd be the one who disappeared. I kept the phone hidden for weeks, months. I watched as the investigation unfolded. Watched as Alex played the grieving widower on the news. Watched as people in town whispered about mysterious killers, about vendettas, about Paul's enemies. Nobody suspected Alex. Not publicly, anyway. But cracks started to form. In September, it came out that Alex had been stealing money from his law firm. Millions of dollars embezzled from clients and partners. Then they found out about the pills, the addiction, the lies. And then, on Labor Day weekend, Alex tried to fake his own murder. Hired a man to shoot him on the side of the road, so his surviving son could collect the insurance money. That's when everything fell apart. The state police got involved. They reopened the investigation into Maggie and Paul's deaths. They found inconsistencies in Alex's story. They found gunshot residue on his clothes. They found the same ammunition at his house that had been used to kill his family. But they never found Maggie's phone, because I still had it. In March 2023, Alex Murdaugh was convicted of murdering his wife and son. The trial lasted 6 weeks. They played recordings of his lies, showed evidence of his thefts, brought in experts who tore apart his alibi. The jury took less than 3 hours to find him guilty. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. I watched the verdict on TV from my apartment in Charleston. I'd left Hampton County 6 months after the murders. Couldn't stay. Couldn't look at Moselle without seeing Maggie slumped against that dog pen, without hearing those gunshots. I still have the phone. It's in a safety deposit box in a bank downtown. Part of me wants to turn it in. Let the prosecutors have one more piece of evidence, one more nail in Alex's coffin. But another part of me wonders what would happen if the wrong people found out I had it. The Murdaughs may have fallen, but their legacy, their connections, their secrets, those don't just disappear. I think about Maggie sometimes, about the last time I saw her alive, standing on that porch, asking me if I'd heard anything strange. She knew. On some level, she must have known, and she stayed anyway. I don't know if that makes her brave or foolish. Maybe both. All I know is that on June 7th, 2021, the Murdaugh dynasty ended in blood and lies on a hunting estate in Hampton County. And I was there to see it fall. I just hope I live long enough to tell the whole truth. Because in a place like Hampton County, the truth has a way of getting people killed.